Welcome back to our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer reporting from Washington. Republicans, at least some of them, they're slamming Senator Rand Paul for his latest comments on ISIS. The Republican presidential hopeful took square aim at his own party, blaming at least some of them for the rise of the radical ISIS group. Listen to this.
Lindsey Graham would say ISIS exists because of people like Rand Paul, who said, let's not go into Syria. And what do you say to Lindsey?
I would say it's exactly the opposite. ISIS exists and grew stronger because of the hawks in our party who gave arms indiscriminately, and most of those arms were snatched up by ISIS. These hawks also wanted to bomb Assad, which would have made ISIS's job even easier. They created these people. ISIS is all over Libya because these same hawks in my party loved Hillary Clinton's war in Libya. They just wanted more of it. But Libya is a failed state, and it's a disaster. Iraq really is a failed state, or a vassal state now of Iran. So everything that they've talked about in foreign policy, they've been wrong about for 20 years, and yet they have somehow the gall to keep saying and pointing fingers otherwise.
Republican Governor Bobby Jindal is joining us now from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Governor, thanks very much for joining us. Following that statement from Senator Rand Paul, you said, and I'm quoting you now, you said he was, in your words, unsuited to be commander-in-chief. Unsuited to be commander-in-chief. Very strong words. Tell our viewers why you believe that.
Well, first of all, Wolf, thank you again for having me back on your show. A couple of things. One, you listen to the outrageous comments he made. You just played this. He said that ISIS exists because of the foreign policy hawks in the Republican Party. If President Obama had said that, Wolf, you'd hear every Republican senator and governor criticizing and condemning him for that. There shouldn't be a double standard simply because the senator is a Republican. ISIS is evil. It is ridiculous to blame America first, to blame Americans for the fact that ISIS exists. Republicans, Democrats, we didn't create ISIS. ISIS is a problem. Not only does ISIS oppose America, this is pure evil. Radical Islam, radical Islamic terrorism. So my first concern with what the senator said was we've had more than 6 years of blaming America, criticizing America. We would not have allowed President Obama to say this. This is a statement that's even to the left of what Secretary Clinton or President Obama would say. It needs to be condemned. It needs to be criticized. But secondly, what also troubles me from the senator's comments, we can't beat evil through weakness. We've also had a foreign policy over 6 years now of trying to lead from behind. America needs to be strong. We will defeat evil through strength, not weakness. I think it's ridiculous to do anything other than to say we're going to hunt down and kill these terrorists and recognize that radical Islam is the real problem here, not foreign policy hawks in the Republican Party. So basically what you're saying is the comment that he made, Senator Rand Paul, and some of the positions that he takes, that makes him unsuited to be president of the United States. You want to finesse that? You want to walk away, reinforce that? You believe he is not ready for the presidency? I think when you listen to his views on foreign policy, it would be a continuation, even worse, of what we've seen the last 6+ years. Look, Wolf, the world has become a more dangerous place. It's not just in the Middle East with Iran expanding their influence in Yemen, as well as in Iraq, as well as in Lebanon and Syria. You've also got Putin in the Ukraine. All over the world, we see rising challenges to America, to our interests, to our allies. For over 6 years, we've had a president who tried to lead from behind, who didn't understand that a stronger America is a safer America, who has not identified the threats we face in radical Islamic terrorism. Foreign policy is becoming an increasingly important issue to the American people. They want a commander-in-chief that's going to restore a peace through strength approach where our friends trust us, our enemies fear and respect us. We don't have that today. Senator Paul's comment suggests to me he would be even to the left of President Obama and Hillary Clinton. We need to say radical Islam is the real enemy here.
All right, so just to be precise, therefore, if Rand Paul were to get the Republican presidential nomination and were running against Hillary Clinton for the presidency, you would not be able to vote for Senator Rand Paul because you believe he's unsuited to be commander-in-chief.
Well, Wolf, two things. One, I don't think he's going to be the nominee. And I want to be very clear. This is not a personal disagreement. This is about policy issues. I want to commend the senator for standing up and saying that we need to be wary of spying on Americans here at home. There are many things that he's done that I think are commendable. I just think when it comes to foreign policy, which is an increasingly important issue, his statements yesterday and some of his previous statements, I just think render him unsuitable. Anybody that's auditioning to be commander-in-chief, I believe, needs to spell out how they would keep America safe. We need a radical break from this president's policies. I didn't hear Senator Rand Paul describe that break.
So would you be able to vote for him?
I don't think I'm going to be faced with that choice. I don't think he'll be the nominee. Now, the Democrats are on their way to coronate Hillary Clinton, but I don't think Rand Paul is going to be our nominee, not only for this, but for other reasons. I don't think he'll be our nominee.
I want you to stand by, Governor. I'm going to talk about your intentions, your plans. What would you do as far as ISIS is concerned? And when will you announce, if you are going to announce, that you want to be a Republican presidential candidate? Much more right after this. Louisiana. Governor, let's talk about what you would do as commander-in-chief as far as ISIS is concerned. Would you be with Lindsey Graham, with John McCain, and deploy maybe 10,000 U.S. troops to go fight ISIS in Iraq?
Well, Wolf, a couple of things. One, I certainly, unlike President Obama, I wouldn't take options off the table. In his authorization for the use of military force, he's put a 3-year deadline. He's also said he's put a ban on ground troops. I don't think any commander-in-chief should telegraph what we will or won't do. I think the commander-in-chief needs to sit down with his military advisors and come up with a realistic plan to hunt down and kill these terrorists. Secondly, I do think today we need to be arming the Kurds and other allies in the region. Third, I think if our allies thought we were serious about removing Assad and therefore not propping up an Iranian satellite, I think you'd see other allies more willing to commit ground troops and other resources, as what you saw happen in Kobani with Kurdish ground troops and American and allied airstrikes successfully beating ISIS. That was a great model where we can work more closely with allies in the region. So I wouldn't take options off the table, but at the same time, we also need to listen to our military advisors, take the political handcuffs off, come up with a realistic plan to beat this enemy.
Back in 2013, you remember this well, you spoke before the Republican National Committee, and you said Republicans must stop being the stupid party, and you said they must stop insulting the intelligence of voters. That was 2 years ago. Has that happened?
I think, Wolf, I think we've gotten a lot better, and what I was emphasizing is we need to be the party of solutions. It'll be very tempting in 2016 for Republican candidates simply to criticize President Obama. That's not enough. We need to be talking about the future of our country. I spent the last year and a half putting together detailed policies on energy, health care, education, foreign policy. I'm the only potential candidate with a detailed plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. The American people just don't want to hear what we're against. They want to hear what we're for. How can we help their kids join the middle class? So I think we're making progress. Still have more work to do.
More recently, you said the Republicans must stop being the party of no, and you said in February, you said Republicans on Capitol Hill, and I'm quoting you now, are Democrat light. Has that changed?
Well, I'm one of those Republican voters that's very frustrated. We were told if they got the majority in D.C., we'd see all these big changes. We haven't seen those changes. I'd like to see the Republicans fighting for school choice. I'd like to see them fighting for more domestic energy production on federal land, federal waters. I'd like to see them fighting harder to rein in the EPA. I'd like to see them fight harder to invest in our military and shrink the size of the federal government before it swallows our economy and turns the American dream into the European nightmare. So I'm one of those frustrated Republican voters. We gave them the majority in the Senate. They kept the majority in the House. We'd like to see more results. This is a Republican, a party that told us if we gave them the majority, they were going to stand up to amnesty, they were going to stand up to Obamacare, they were going to stand up to the out-of-control spending. So I'd like to see more. I'd like to see a more principled conservative approach in D.C.
As you know, Monday is the deadline for Congress to reauthorize what's called the Patriot Act, which allow this bulk collection of communications, basically telephone conversations, other communications here in the United States. Here's what you said back in July of 2013.
At the end of the day, one of the president's most solemn and first obligations is to keep us secure. All of us are, I think, conservative, small government Republicans, but we all agree that our first responsibility is to protect the security of the people we represent, we work for.
So basically you were supporting the program then. Do you still support it now, this bulk collection?
Wolf, two things. One, I absolutely want to give our federal government the tools it needs to keep us safe from terrorists, to hunt them down, to protect them from protect us and prevent them from attacking us. You saw the attack in Garland, Texas. We don't need to see ISIS continuing to grow their abilities to attack us here at home. So I absolutely want our agencies to have the tools to protect us. Secondly, though, I do think it's right to make sure that they are not sweeping up the records of innocent Americans. They're not doing that without a court warrant. They're not doing that without the proper oversight. The reality is we want to make sure they're going after the terrorists, those with ties to radical Islam, not innocent Americans. even one of the original authors of the Patriot Act and other supporters of the original Patriot Act have said that it's been used in ways that weren't intended. So I think it's a good thing Congress is considering amendments and how to make sure they're not sweeping up the records of innocent, ordinary Americans while we still preserve the tools to go after those terrorists.
When are you going to announce that you're running for the Republican presidential nomination?
Well, if we'll make our decision after our legislative session ends on June 11th, if I were to become a candidate, it'd be to bring big change in D.C. I do want to see a Republican win in 2016. It's not enough just to elect a Republican. We need a Republican who will make big changes to help rescue the American dream for the next generation.
Which way are you leaning?
Well, you know, we've given this a lot of thought. Well, like I said, we've put together these policies through America Next. We got a couple more weeks in session, so let us focus on that. But after that, we'll make our decision shortly. Don't worry, we won't keep you guessing for long. But the important thing is, on the Republican side, we've got a number of candidates, and I think that's a good thing. Unlike the Democratic side, we're in the process of crowning Hillary. I think it's a good thing we have competition on our side. Every politician says the next election is the most important in our lifetime. Wolf, this time it really, really is. If we don't shrink the size of this government, balance our budget, get the economy growing again, we'll have a generation of Americans who will only know about the American dream from their history books. That's not acceptable.
Bobby Jindal is the governor of Louisiana. We'll be anxious to get your decision. Your family, they're on board, I take it, though, right?
Well, we've been talking to the kids and my wife. You know, we've been thinking and praying about this together as a family. They're great. They're very supportive. They've been wonderfully supportive as I've been governor these last 2 terms. So if we make a decision, we'll make it jointly as a family.
All right, we'll hear what you have decided. Thanks very much, Governor, for joining us.